back to TARTLEcast. You're here with Alexander McCaig and Jason Rigby. We are live in the studio this Sunday.
Sunday.
But work.
Everybody's throwing footballs, and we're
over here
talking about AI.
Yeah.
Who's more boring?
Should be talking about it. I've never really been interested in football.
No, me neither. I like soccer. Soccer's kind of interesting.
Soccer's kind of cool.
I like the aspects of, like, with the Olympics is the country geographical aspects of it.
Yeah.
Like, you have these players and they come from
all over.
Like Argentina seems to create, these amazing, players. So it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
And the Olympics are that way too. I think it kind of shows the best.
Not to sidetrack too hard, but have you seen soccer golf?
No, but this sounds interesting.
So, they do disc golf with frisbees?
Yes.
Well, now they have these like huge putting holes that are big enough for a soccer ball. And you're literally going out like,
you just run around and kick a soccer. Oh, yeah, people would do that.
Oh, it's so cool.
People do any type of, if you can create, we're apes. We're made for competition.
Yeah, ball sport.
We like anything we have to compete against each other. Speaking of
competition.
Yes. So I want to talk about real intelligence versus artificial intelligence. And then I want to get into the TARTLE difference.
Is this like a simple thing? You go to a grocery store.
Yeah.
If I give you two options, do you want the artificial sweetener or the real sweetener? Do you want the artificial?
They sell a lot. This sells a lot.
I know, but do you want the artificial apple or the real apple?
Yeah, exactly.
You want the artificial meat? Now, this is a good one for people who want artificial meat or real meat.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, there's my point. All right, so let's go.
Yeah, artificial intelligence has made remarkable strides. We know that, and it's kicking ass. We talk to AI companies every week. But there is a fundamental gap.
Yeah.
And it persists. And the gap between artificial and genuine human intelligence, the fake apple and the real apple, AI systems can process vast amounts of synthetic or scraped data, but they fail to capture the nuanced contextual understanding that characterizes human decision making.
That's exactly right. So when I walk into a room, there is so much about Alexander's history and how I perceive situations, how I feel about things that lead me to act a certain way or speak certain words dependent on the setting. You can't know those things as an artificial intelligence system because you are not inside of my brain pulling all those really rich, unique perspectives and moments in my personal history that I've cataloged in an internal level, which is my implicit knowledge. It's my implicit knowledge, not my explicit stuff, but the internal things. Because you don't have that, you are stuck in the world of artificial intelligence.
Well, it's so funny. The other day I was listening to an AI podcast, and the guy was saying, he's like, well, we're using all this expense to have human labeling, where they have to pay people to label.
Yeah, can you label
and then
tags.
The crazy part about it is he was saying, well, technically all human data is labeled data, but he's forgetting about the contextual and the consent part in what is actually happening in the human brain. As far as when you're labeling something that's external for me, that's different than when you're
internally labeling,
when you're subconscious, where the AI is looking at something that's private, maybe my browser history, and I haven't told my parents yet. I'm 14 and I haven't told my parents yet I'm gay.
Right.
And then now all of a sudden you're going to take that data and that's human. It was such a generic, it was kind of almost, you could tell this person's been out of the loop and been stuck in a lab.
Yeah. And there's absolutely
scientists get this.
There's another element to this too, Jason, is that because the data they have retrieved hasn't been permissioned to them appropriately, and they haven't been able to get their hands on private data from people like you and me, the pace at which it's been able to evolve has been nil. They've used everything that's already out there, and then people are creating new content like images, or Facebook posts or Twitter posts that are created using artificial intelligence, but it's not new information.
No, and it's also, this is a perfect example because they were talking about this, the human labeling is, if I look at a picture or I download a picture, and then another person labels that picture, because that's what's happening. That has no context of why I downloaded that picture.
You have no idea.
You have no idea that I love surfing and I was looking at this beach and I've been there with my children.
What about when you go to a museum, you see a piece of art?
The
way you see it is completely different from the person to the next to you, but it's the same image. Now, in artificial intelligence, it can't distinguish values like that. Why? No. It hasn't had the ability to actually get real intelligence.
Yeah, EV, emotional value. Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have any of it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't have any of that. And that's what I want to talk about. So we're inventing words here at TARTLE all the time. We even had somebody say we need to have a glossary.
We hired this guy named Shakespeare over here, and he's just been at the office. He's been smoking, drinking wine, and just coming up with new words for artificial intelligence.
So here's a good one that we've came up with: is synthetic ceiling. It's a barrier that prevents AI models from achieving true human-like reasoning and adaptability.
Right. And you know what's creating that ceiling is the fact that artificial intelligence or LLM companies have not used consent to break the ceiling.
Yeah.
They have not used a technology like TARTLE to go directly to people and gather that rich, deep human contextual knowledge that's in there and get it with consent. That's the problem with it. You have a synthetic ceiling, you will never be able to actually grow your artificial intelligence model. It does. I don't care what you say, you'll never be able to do it because you have not gone to people and captured the uniqueness of them to train the model. There is no fine tuning to any of those things. Your ceiling is right there because you never found a proper technology to fix the consent problem.
Yeah, it was so funny. I watched this is going to go hand in hand. Just up here on the road, I watched a kid the other day at a stoplight. I'm at the stoplight, and on the other side, there's a kid in like a sports car, and you can tell he's like a teenager or whatever.
Oh yeah, sure.
He decides that he's going to flip around, drift.
Love it.
And then pull, go straight.
He swing the back end out too much?
Yeah. He went a little, because he knew there was a lot of people around watching him. So you know how that goes. And that's what I want to talk about is not only do we have a synthetic ceiling, but we have a synthetic drift.
We do have a drift.
This is a gradual disconnection between AI models and real human behavior.
Jason,
and that's due to the resilience of the synthetic data. People don't realize the resilience of it. It's kind of like artificial. It's McDonald's fries.
Yeah.
Synthetic potatoes. How long does it take before the mold?
That doesn't decay.
Yeah.
But what happens is as the system becomes more biased by the synthetic data, humans track to that information. The models track to it. New models get trained off on top of that. So then we're drifting away from real evolution in consciousness and understanding, which AI could help with. And we're just going into the most synthetic artificial intelligence. You already have something fake.
Yes.
And then you're going to synthesize it further.
Yes. And that's another one that we've came up with. It's called reality gap. The measurable disconnect between how AI performs in testing versus real world human scenarios.
And we've seen this, right? There's a distinguishing delta between here is Alexander's true behavior and what he's really going to do. And this is what was predicted because of the synthesized information.
Yeah. I asked ChatGPT AI, how many AI models fell due to poor training data. And it said 73%.
Yes. 73%. And the other ones that don't fail is because those companies had enough money to buy enough public information that they could train it effectively.
Yeah. And it's something that I want to create. It's a data vitality score, which measures how alive or connected to real human behavior a data set is.
Well, I
think that would be really cool.
For a data vitality score, you could do that by saying, all right, I'm going to go to TARTLE and I'm going to look at the ratio between real human intelligence that I'm training my model with. Even if my model has synthetic or public data, I want to know how much is coming from real, private, contextual, rich information from human beings. The more of a ratio I can tend towards the humans, the better off you're going to be with this measurement that you're talking about.
Yeah, and it's so interesting, like recommendation engines in the lab with synthetic data, they kick ass.
Well, it's a lab.
Because I don't know the intent of what I'm searching for. You have no idea of what I could type in 5-star restaurant here. I told you about a Thanksgiving meal we went to. 5-star restaurant, Santa Fe, New Mexico, where we're at.
Yeah.
Shout out to Santa Fe. Now, the engine will give me, it may give me Four Seasons, it's going to give me, some of these 5-star restaurants, but it doesn't know the intent of what I'm looking for. It's me and my girlfriend. Is it romantic?
Exactly.
What's the type of food I'm interested in? How am I feeling? Do I want something heavy? Do I want something more light?
Doesn't know.
I may want something luxurious, but there's a lot of nuance with that word.
That's right.
Yeah. And so I think that's what, and this is something that we call neural resonance. And that is the perfect alignment between AI predictions and human intuition.
Right.
And that only comes through real data integration through TARTLE.
And that's the only place you can
Yes,
get it.
it's the only
You wouldn't
place.
be able to get it anywhere else.
Right.
It breaks the consent ceiling.
Right.
It gives you proper ratios and
Right.
vitality scores of your data, and it affords you resonance because you're actually bringing the artificial intelligence and real intelligence together.
I watched 2 tuning forks on Instagram yesterday.
Is this
where
what
I
you
was
spent
thinking
your
of
time
this.
doing?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is on Instagram. Yeah, and I watched one at 433 hertz. It hit, and then the other one began to resonate with that one.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking of this. This was really interesting. When I begin to think of resonance, it's almost like another word we throw out is a reality anchoring. It's this crucial process of grounding AI models in real human behavior. There has to be not just a resonance, but there also has to be an anchoring of the tuning fork.
No one's
If
done
that
that.
makes sense. Yeah.
So if you go to
Well, we have.
well,
but,
yeah, of course we've done that. But if you're a Hugging Face model builder,
yeah.
how do you know your model's any good? It's probably shit because there's so many of them and everybody's competing. But how do you know if it's any good if you don't have any real rich data to anchor into? There is no foundational support, a good database
Yes.
that you need from humans. You haven't found that. But if you
Mhm.
came to Tartle and started to train your model off it, you'd have a lot of benefit from doing so.
Yeah, and I kind of want you to explain this, the TARTLE difference, and what real intelligent enhancement actually means. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, TARTLE's approach fundamentally reimagines AI training. We introduce 2 things, mainly, a lot more, but I want you to talk about these 2. We introduce real-time human feedback, RTHF,
Mm-hmm.
and then ethically sourced zero and first-party data.
Yeah, so let's talk about these 2 things. That ceiling you were talking about, that synthetic data ceiling, that happens because there's a lack of consent. So when you go to ethically source something, you have to get permission from Jason to share that data with me as a large language model or AI company.
Right.
Jason, I will give you X amount of dollars if you share these data points about yourself back to us. Do you consent to doing so?
Yes.
Oh, great. Fantastic.
Yes.
Look at this balanced, ethical transaction that just occurred. And I came to you and you know exactly what's being shared, who it's going to, and how it's being used. Now,
Yeah, that's amazing.
that right there allows you to unlock this thing called real-time human feedback, which means that using the TARTLE technology where you have the real intelligence API. So if you are connecting via API into the TARTLE marketplace, you can actually, in any sort of frequency or cadence, pull in all of this direct feedback from human beings to constantly fine-tune your model. You can't do this anywhere else.
Which I like to call a human resonance loop.
I like that.
Because the human resonance loop is
All right,
where AI
Shakespeare.
systems achieve harmony with actual human decision
All right,
making.
Shakespeare, this is too reasonable.
Human decision making, and this is really cool. What the AI can, with TARTLE data, can do is see these patterns.
Yes.
Because we do have patterns.
We do have patterns. But why are those patterns occurring? Yes, we understand.
How do I feel in that?
What is the true interactions? What are the cause and effects? What are all those soft things that are missed but are really core drivers for humans? And what we're going to find here is that there's a measurable delta to see if your system's truly effective. There's a measurable delta between what Alexander says he's going to do and what is observed of him or what is predicted from that observation. Now, if we can get the prediction from observation to marry in to exactly what Alexander said he's going to do and ends up doing, that delta goes down to 0. You have one of the finest artificial intelligence systems.
Yeah, we call it intelligence bridging.
I like this.
So yeah, it's the process of connecting artificial and human intelligence through the platform TARTLE. And what we see is when we do this is we're seeing average improvements of at least 30% of model accuracy across all different types of applications.
If not higher, because you're reducing, not only are things becoming more accurate and more timely, you're reducing the biases you have from synthetic data. You're making your model more robust.
Right.
Okay. So whether it's 30%, maybe even it's 100%, depending on whatever your model is that you're trying to adjust to, mind you, we're probably not that beneficial for aerospace engineering artificial intelligence. We're talking about data coming from people. Okay. I mean, if you're sourcing data from aerospace engineers,
if you're creating a new seat,
if you're creating a new seat
and in first class, and you would have a conversation with people,
you
know, our coach or whatever, that we're more than happy to do that.
Or if you're getting data from engineers that say, here are our preferred mathematical models we use, that's interesting.
Yes.
Oh, maybe me as a AutoCAD business with AI, you know, we had so much weighting into one model because we thought it was most effective. But in reality, when people are actually going out and doing it, they're using something completely different. You wouldn't be able to know that unless you go back to people. So whether that gain in efficiency or robustness in your system or accuracy is 30%, over time, that will only tend more closer to 100.
Yeah. And I want people to understand, especially you data scientists out there, the technical architecture of real intelligence interrogation. So what does this look at? And there's several key mechanisms that I want us to get into. Number one is zero-party data, and I call it the foundation. The direct user-provided information through Tartle's marketplace, explicit consent, context for each data point. That's important.
Yeah.
And then rich metadata, including situation and emotional context.
Right.
And that's the part that.
So when you integrate with Tartle, what you're talking about, this real intelligence integration, and you're a data scientist, the data comes labeled, it comes structured, it comes with rich context, and it's reduced in demographic bias because you can apply filters to make sure that, like, if I want a truly representative data sample, I can do that.
You can also ask whatever question you want.
Anything you want under the sun.
How does this make you feel when you read this paragraph?
And if people don't want to share it, they don't have to. So that's the beauty of it. You're going directly to the source. It's not like I got my water downstream, after it's been hit by the water treatment plant, right? And everybody's, gone to the bathroom in it and thrown their trash into the, the public riverways. No, I'm going to the top of the mountain to get the cleanest, most pristine mountain river water.
Yeah, that's
why would you go anywhere else?
Well, and that's the real-time human feedback loops that we have, because it allows not only for dynamic adaptation to changing human behaviors and preferences, but it also allows a reduction in bias. And how that works is, in our marketplace globally, we have 226 countries, millions of people on the system. So you have diverse human feedback sources.
Yes.
Go get that somewhere else.
You can't do that anywhere else. And because people are choosing to share, and you can get them from any corner of planet Earth, that allows you to really have a truly statistically normalized model, because I have such a diverse set of people, and longitudinally I can study these things.
Right.
It's not like, oh, I got a snapshot of someone's behaviors once. I am much different than I was 5 years ago, last week, 10 years ago, yesterday.
100%. We're like a new person. Literally.
I'm a new person every single day I wake up.
Yeah,
or every 7 years I've shed all those old cells. So how is it that your model is still using 7+ year old data and assuming people have the same behaviors?
It's the we've talked about this 100 million times, and I'm in marketing, and it gets me, is trying to put people in boxes.
Yeah, that's all it is.
It's like trying to put people in garbage cans and say, here's this can,
that's
is
the
this,
thing.
and this can is this. And
you've built this awesome AI system. Why are you still using box level data? You've built this Ferrari, and you're putting like 83 octane in it when you should be putting like 95, 97, 101 like jet fuel in it if you really could.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And then, finally, is contextual enhancement layer. There's an integration of human decision-making rationale, a capture of implicit knowledge and experiential wisdom, which is pretty important, and culture and situational context preservation.
Right. It's very, very difficult for us, unless we're a bunch of anthropologists, which we're not, because there's far and few between an anthropologist, to go out and actually study so many unique cultures. And cultures are like an organism. They develop. They have their own evolution. And to be able to capture the nuances of it, you could only do it using a system like Tartle.
Right.
You could,
because you can ask.
Because you can ask.
Is this culturally offensive?
Yeah. Not only am I getting all this other explicit data on you, but all the implicit information about your life. Those are things you have to share with me. Those are the diaries. Those are the dreams. Those are the internal thoughts, the wishes, all of those things I typically cannot get on the outside, especially not in a public data set. I have to get it in a private manner. And the only way I can do it is if you consent to sharing it and permission that data over to me.
Yeah. And I want to close out the podcast in kind of this philosophical implication and what that looks like. We talk about philosophy a lot with Tartle, but the integration of real human intelligence into AI systems, and it raises some interesting questions about the nature of intelligence itself. So while traditional AI attempts to replicate human cognition through pattern recognition and statistics analysis, Tartle's approach, and this is what's really cool, is we acknowledge that human intelligence is inherently different.
Yeah.
It's contextual, experiential, and often intuitive in ways that purely artificial systems struggle to replicate.
Right. So instead of us trying to replicate or create a model, we should be mapping human intelligence into the systems. That's the difference. It's not to say that this is how I think these things are. This is how I'm defining intelligence. Don't define it.
Right.
Let the human being and what they're doing map into a system and let it follow that. Let them train it. That's the real intelligence.
Well, it needs to evolve and adapt like
anything else.
Has, yeah.
This planet, you, relationships,
Yeah.
your thoughts.
It's crucial to. It's so funny how we want to short circuit evolution.
You can't do it.
And guess what happens when people try to do that?
It backfires every time. Every time.
Yeah, I mean,
that's why you need to. We haven't even taken really the first steps in artificial intelligence until we have mapped it to the human consciousness.
Yeah, and that's the human AI collaboration that needs to happen. That's not happening now.
It's not happening at all. So we're creating more of a synthetic world rather than a real world. You're never going to have a good chatbot that can truly reason and contextualize things because it doesn't have the implicit knowledge of human beings constantly feeding back into it. It's not there. What did Microsoft try to do?
I know.
They go into Skype, they steal all of your transcripts to train their data. Right? Everybody's taking all these weird, obfuscated, illegal, unethical practices to get that rich contextual information. Your hospitals that you go into are installing listening microphones to capture that rich contextual data because they're not getting it from you with direct permission. And you know what they say? They put up a piece of paper in the hospital that says, we're listening to you for the safety of the people in the hospital, which is a fucking crock of shit. The real reasons hospitals do it is to train artificial intelligence models. But they're doing it, they're not really getting your consent, but they think it's enough to put up a piece of paper. When you're in a hospital and you're sick and you need care, do you think you're reading a piece of paper on the wall that's talking about how microphones are listening in on your private conversation with your doctor? No, not a chance.
Yeah, and this is crazy because whenever we're getting into privacy, I mean, this is huge. We talk about this over and over and over again. It's something that's non-consensual. How does that make you feel? Like what you're just talking about. It's so invasive, isn't it?
Of course it's invasive. Does sex need to be consensual?
100%.
So then why wouldn't the same thing happen with people's data? With their inner thoughts?
It's that same feeling. And as humans, we should be pissed off.
We should be pissed off. And everybody should flock to a system that seriously says, hey, if I want consent, it's going to happen here. If I want a permission, it's going to happen here. I don't want people taking this from me.
Yeah. Could you imagine the conversations that they're listening to when loved ones are around a grandma or something like that?
No,
you know,
it's horrible.
Yeah. And then out in the hallway, the conversations that are happening.
And then they're like, oh, we're scrubbing it. We're de-identifying. You shouldn't have had it in the first place.
No. When you're saying you have to scrub something, we've got some issues here.
We have issues when the CIA says that, guys.
That's what I'm saying. It sounds like it's invasive. It's rude.
You know what it is?
It's going against our human rights.
It's wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah.
That's all it is. Yeah. It's just wrong.
Yeah. And if it's wrong, it's evil.
So don't do it.
Yeah. What I like about TARTLE, we'll shift away from this. Those are great sound bites. It's the scalability of this approach and how TARTLE's growing network. I mean, we're growing by thousands of users every day. And so it allows you to continuously learn and adapt and change to human behaviors and needs with this dynamic, evolving ecosystem.
Yeah. And it may not sound like a lot, 1,000 people a day, but 1,000 people are typically what it requires to start training a model. We're adding brand new, rich contextual data start samples every single day.
Well, and then the average user is filling out at least 10 data packets.
There's so much information.
So there's information.
So it's really like 10,000 data samples every day.
Every single day, 7 days a week. Yeah. All across the world.
Non-stop.
If you want your artificial intelligence to be constantly enhanced with real human insight, then to me, this is the way. This is the only way.
This is the way.
This is the way. The way.
I feel like I'm in Dune. You know?
I just watched the new show, the Dune show. Have you seen it?
No,
it's on HBO.
Think?
I like it. I think it's good. They start off with like the mother, and then you know the political. It's the same thing. Spies, politics,
spies.
Yeah.
Spies and
it's like, but it's just always. It was so funny. I was talking to my girlfriend, and I was like, "You think we'd evolved past in this time of Dune? You think we'd evolved past like kings and marrying to gain approval from one to the other kingdom, our planet? You know what I mean?"
You think humanity would move past 20 different AI firms and just have one that's doing the right thing? Still haven't done it.
Still haven't done it.
You know,
well, what's even worse is Mark Andreessen came on Joe Rogan.
I saw this.
And he said, he talked about this. He said the AI companies were going in bed with the government.
Yes.
To be like, hey, get it so to the point of where we need 100 or 200 or 1,000 lawyers so that no new startup can happen. And then we'll lay in bed together.
Sounds about right.
And do this illegal bullshit.
There's not one good thing, but guess what? The foundation, the principles, the philosophy, the technology of TARTLE is all in alignment. There is only one true data marketplace for human beings, and that is TARTLE. Everything else does not compare. It is absolutely trivial. And
Yeah.
if people are getting human level data in any other way, they're certainly not doing it ethically.
Yeah. And for me, I feel like whenever we look at what we're doing at TARTLE, it's good. Like it's like you just talked about bad. This is good. Like we're providing income for people all across the world.
Right.
Like what is better than that?
We're
to provide an opportunity for someone based off of their data.
And we're actually bringing humans into the development process of artificial intelligence, which inevitably they will rely on. That's really what it is. It's a bridge.
Even in a, I was thinking about this morning when I was going over my notes here, is like, even in a 3D spatial type world, you're going to need the measurements that are going to be happening, whether you're just wearing a pair of goggles or whatever, you're going to need consent on all that, and it's like, why did you look at this? You could stop, pause, and for money, ask the question, or for game credit, or for whatever it may be.
Yes.
Having that zero and first party data would be so essential, as to be like, what made you choose this app? Or why did why did you decide to spend 2 hours last night in, this virtual world?
Yeah.
So, it's the future.
It is the future.
And as we work more with data as humans, as we begin to envelop ourselves into technology, eventually turning into the Matrix, where we're in pods.
Yeah.
As we do that, at some point, who gets the right to us? Because data becomes us.
It becomes you, and
it becomes
such a big record,
if not already.
You. Yeah. Say you have a personal robot. What if it's trained off of your superset? You have supersets in the gym. You don't think you're gonna have supersets on data? Come on, people, figure it out.
I'll be like, hey, go lift weights for me, bro.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I feel so strong. I feel so strong.
Could you imagine having that? It's gonna be so interesting, because, and I don't want to get too futuristic on this, but all of these items, whether it's an IoT device, which a robot is basically an IoT device, but it's the ability for that to pick up so much data constantly.
Right.
It's going to know what you're eating, if it's making you meals. It's going to know when you wake up.
It won't know what to pick up. It won't know how to analyze you
It's
properly.
not going to.
Because humans haven't been a part of the self-analytical process, and they haven't shared that data back with these companies.
That's where we did a whole podcast on Tesla robots, and like, hey, Elon, we're the best.
I don't understand.
We're the best information. If you want human feedback, your robots are going to need it more than anyone.
They're going to need it more than anyone. And right now it's a robot. It will never become an Android unless you use TARTLE as a bridge to move your thing from robot to Android.
Yeah, and it's so silly. It's like everybody's like pause right now with the chips, and I saw Larry Ellison from Oracle, and he was begging NVIDIA. He's like, hey, we'll pay whatever it, just get us these chips, yeah. And so there's this whole desire with, that's why Taiwan becomes important. Now we're building factories here in the United States.
But why?
But just the tooling.
No, but think about it, Jason. Why? Why do they want more chips? Because they have to train bigger and bigger data sets.
Yes.
Why? Because the data sucks.
Yes.
Your data set doesn't have to be bigger.
That's what I'm saying.
It just has to be more rich and contextual.
Well, you got 4 to 6 years before all this comes online, these big factories and everything else. In the meantime, let's grab some TARTLE first party data and get the heads up.
Do the right thing.
Grab the human straw.
Yeah, just suck up human consciousness and figure it out. If you have any modicum of intelligence as a data scientist in the AI space, you would see that this is a very valuable thing for you to become a part of. Build apps on top of it. Tie in. Don't just train models. Build apps do cool stuff.
Yeah, and I want people to understand, if your idea is to replace human intelligence with artificial intelligence, we don't want to have a conversation with you. What we want is to create a symbiotic relationship where each enhance others.
Yeah. Both of them have to work in lockstep. Not, I just want to launch AI so far ahead, I don't really care about the development of humans. If that's that, we don't align with you, and that's not a process we want to work with.
Yeah, because the irreplaceable value of a human,
if you say they can be replaced,
scale an AI and have power, we get that, but that there has to be this collaboration that respects both.
Yeah, and if it's not there, we're not collaborating. So that being said, thank you very much for joining us today on TartleCast, and we will be back live soon. See ya.